What's a man gotta do to get that kind of attention from you?
It's hard to say exactly, but you seem to be doing fine.
Well, great. Though truth is, it ain't me that wants you.
Oh?
No, Miss Jacqueline Natla does, from Natla Technologies. You know, creator of all things bright and beautiful.
Seal it, Larson.
Ma'am.
Feast your eyes on this, Lara. How does that make your wallet rumble?
I'm sorry. I only play for sport.
Then you'll like a big park. Peru, vast mountain ranges to cover, sheer walls of ice, rocky crags, savage winds, and there's this little trinket, an age-old artifact of mystical powers buried in the unfound tomb of Qualapec. That's my interest. You could leave tomorrow. Are you busy tomorrow?
Whenever the topic of which games influenced me the most comes up, Tomb Raider is usually pretty high on the list alongside The Legend of Zelda. Even though I played Link's Awakening more as a kid, playing the original Tomb Raider and later Tomb Raider Legend would play important roles in showing me just how adventurous playing a video game can be. Exploring an ancient deadly tomb while avoiding dangerous mythical monsters, all while falling in love with one of the greatest waifus in gaming. I'm your host for today, L8RG8R2U, and today's episode of Game Bytes, we'll be discussing the pros and cons of Tomb Raider. Pro number 1, the gameplay. Of course, gameplay is a very important point of discussion. As Reggie Fils-Aimé once said, if a game isn't fun, why bother? Thankfully for Tomb Raider, this is easily one of the most fun games you'll play on the original PlayStation. The first level and Croft Manor do a brilliant job of teaching the players how to handle the situations this world will throw at you, establishing early on how close you'll need to pay attention to your surroundings. Exploration will likely feel outdated to those who've played more recent action-adventure games. You don't have a ton of options in terms of climbing, but you do have plenty of tricky, carefully calculated jumps you'll need to make, knowing full well a mistake will lead to a long fall. There'll be some levels where you'll find your end goal pretty early on, such as the Lost Valley level, where you'll need to find machine cogs inside a dinosaur-infested valley. However, others can feel a bit more vague at times. The first 3 levels in the Greece portion of the game are especially apparent, starting you off in places completely separate from where a majority of the levels take place at. Another highlight of the game is the combat. When you pull out your guns, you can't grab onto ledges, so it's not ideal to have them out all the time while exploring, but whenever Lara sees an enemy, she'll automatically aim at them, which is a great way to solve the issue of how to fight an enemy who's off camera. This works especially well as you'll often be running and jumping away from more dangerous enemies. Most of the enemies you'll face in this game are animals and monsters, with only 5 human enemies appearing in the game. You'll start off nice and easy with bats and wolves, raptors and a T-Rex in the valley, lions and gorillas in the Colosseum, cat mummies and centaurs in Egypt, all building up to some pretty intense encounters towards the end of the game. Pro number 2, characters. This is mostly going to be discussing why Lara Croft is such a great character. Lara's backstory was a bit different in the original games. Rather than trying to follow in her father's footsteps like the more recent entries in the series, Lara was actually disowned by her family because of her adventurous lifestyle. Lara made her fortune by writing books about ancient history, which also funded her archaeological career, leading to her becoming the Tomb Raider. Lara is honestly a complete badass in this game. You'll see her fighting a T-Rex, breaking into Natla's office, chasing a boat on a motorcycle, fighting off an ancient army of monsters. All of this, and as she says in the opening, she only plays for sport. For number 3, sound design. Tomb Raider isn't a series that's well known for its music, but I must praise the sound design in this game. Tomb Raider's developers wanted to focus more on sound effects and environmental noises as opposed to coming up with catchy songs for every single level in the game. This honestly works very well for the tone of the game since you're supposed to feel isolated in these tombs, and when the music does appear, you know something intense is just around the corner. Also, this game's voice acting is hilarious. It may seem like a con because it's super cheesy and very mid-90s voice acting, but it's just really hilarious to me, so yeah, that's definitely a pro in my opinion. Con number 1, the graphics. This really only counts as half a con since there's not much the developers could have done about this. The graphics in Tomb Raider are honestly the part that has aged the most poorly. You could tell these levels were built on a grid, a very blocky grid, and the Sphinx in Egypt just looks outright hilarious. However, despite these dated graphics, it never feels the same. It's usually pretty easy to tell which way you're going, whether you've been to this place already, whether a trap is around the corner, etc. Con number 2, the save system. This only really counts as a con if you're playing the PlayStation or Sega Saturn version. On consoles, your only option for saving comes from the save crystals found across the levels. If you pick these up, that's it. The crystal goes away forever, and you're locked in that exact moment in time if you need to reload. This could be especially bad if there's a few crystals nearby and you pick them all up without knowing how the save system works, or if you're freaking out over whether to save now when you might need it later, or save it for later at the risk of dying now and going even further back. On the PC version, you can thankfully save at any time. Some people might see this as a problem because it is a bit of a thrill figuring out when the best time to save in the original. But in today's gaming, this alone makes the PC version my preferred way to play. Speaking of version differences, there's another thing I'd like to discuss, but I'm not quite sure whether to label this as a pro or a con. If you're playing this game on a console, go with the PlayStation version. The Sega Saturn version is graphically inferior with several bugs and glitches. These were mostly fixed for PlayStation as the developers had more time to properly debug that version of the game. I usually prefer console versions for gaming, especially for one as nostalgic as Tomb Raider on PlayStation, but if you want to try the game out today, I recommend the Steam version on PC. On top of the nice feature of saving anywhere, this version also allows you to connect a controller to Steam, meaning I can play this game with the Switch Joy-Con. At the time of writing this review, Tomb Raider hasn't seen a port on a modern day Nintendo console. Should the day come, however, my opinion will likely change since I spend most of my time playing on Nintendo Switch. However, one odd thing about the Steam version is it doesn't include content from the original PC's expansion packs. These, along with other expansion packs from the other classic games, have never seen a re-release. If you want to try these levels out for yourself, you'll need a disk drive for your computer capable of playing an old copy of this game. Tomb Raider, while starting to age just like the tombs it raids, it's still a must-play today. The classic games have this magical sense of exploration and adventure that you just can't get with the new games. This is a game that'll always remain special to me, and that's why I'm giving Tomb Raider a 4.5 out of 5. Thank you for watching this episode of Game Bytes. We've got more reviews on the channel, so feel free to check them out if you'd like. I've also done a Let's Play of the Tomb Raider trilogy featuring a 100% guide of Legend and Versus Underworld, and that's pretty fun. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, Lady Gear to you.